Michel Poulain, demógrafo belga de reconocido prestigio mundial, lleva toda su vida tratando de responder a una pregunta. ¿Por qué algunos humanos viven más y mejor que otros? Michel Poulain no cuenta historias, cuenta vidas a través de años bien vividos, tratando de averiguar qué es lo que separa la vida buena de la vida promedio. Gracias a sus investigaciones, el profesor Poulain ha logrado identificar las denominadas Blue Zones o zonas azules, lugares donde la longevidad no es una excepción estadística, sino la norma un año tras otro. Con una mirada rigurosa, pero no carente de curiosidad, Michel Poulain nos invita a entender el envejecimiento no como un final, sino como un proceso lleno de significado, a preguntarnos qué factores nos ayudan a llegar más lejos, pero también a llegar mejor. Hoy tenemos la inmensa suerte y el privilegio de sentarnos con él para escuchar sus ideas, su experiencia y su visión del futuro de la longevidad. Porque comprender el envejecimiento es comprendernos a nosotros mismos y alcanzar una vida larga y plena, una aspiración que todos deberíamos perseguir, no como un sueño inalcanzable, sino como un objetivo plausible. ¿Qué tal, Michel Poulain? How are you?
I am fine. So I'm very happy to be with you today.
Well, yeah, we spend the day together.
Yes.
Here we are in this, wonderful library of Salamanca.
I'm
The historic library of Salamanca at Salamanca University.
I'm really impressed because one of my main interests are the old books.
Yeah.
I have some on old map. I have the old map of my area and so on from the 16th century and so on. But books, I have even some parchment from the 15th century at home.
Wow.
And for me, can you imagine something that has been written at the time that Christopher Columbus arrived in the US? That's something really...
in America.
In America, yeah.
Let's say.
No.
Uh-huh. Well, and this is wonderful to talk about your subject of life. I mean, longevity.
Exactly.
This is the perfect spot to start to speak about longevity. Something you've been dealing with for a lifetime. Although you have such an amazing life. You studied astronomy, you studied demography, you studied philosophy. And now you're recognized all over the world because you're, marking the blue zones. Can you tell us what a blue zone is?
Yes. You are right to say that I really started in astrophysics. So it's really amazing that you start with the star. And from there I went to history because it was something that attracted me. I did the history of my village, for example. And therefore,
your village was?
My village, in a small village of 300 persons in Wallonia in Belgium.
Okay.
Where I arrived when I was age 10.
10.
My father was the professor in the village, the only professor in the village. And what I did at that time, I started to visit all the oldest old on the village. I was only 22, but I was already interested because I know for sure that they have something to tell me. And I wanted to understand how things have changed. The way they they grow the cereal and so on in the past, and how it comes to the new, at what time and in which course. I like all those things that are on the line of time and how it evolves. And that's why in such a place here, I would like to open all the books, but they don't allow me to open the books. That's the story. But okay, we will try to find an arrangement between.
Well, we're surrounded by them, so we have the energy of the books.
Yeah.
And that's good also to talk about.
Oh, just to say, we have the energy of the books, but also on all those people who read these books.
Yeah.
So you have the books is something concrete, but all the person that took the advantage of reading this book. Can you imagine this?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And this concentration on centuries of people, on wisdom, of this wisdom that is collected here. And it's good that we talk about books. We have to talk about the concept of longevity, something you oppose to other colleagues of yours who talk about mortality, and you
Yes.
took it in the positive sense.
Yeah. In fact, what happens is that in demography, some are dealing with longevity, some are dealing with nuptiality, and the other group is dealing with mortality. I was still last week in Paris to a big meeting around from people coming from all over the world on the human mortality database. So, which means talking about the cause of death, talking about mortality and so on. And I bring in the story the longevity. And the longevity is just the opposite to mortality. It's a positive aspect compared to mortality. And I found it's very useful to introduce the concept of longevity in demography. And what happens is that, in fact, I was...
It changed the whole paradigm.
Exactly.
Just because of one word.
You see it from the other side.
Yeah.
And from a side that is really positive, and I try everywhere to turn to the positive thing. But do you know that, in fact, when I started after astrophysics, I went to demography. And in demography, my first task was internal migration. Then I switched to international migration in Europe. That was building. I visited all the country in Europe to create data on migration, because there was no data. And
that was what year? That was what years? In which decade?
In which decade? It was from 81 to 90. That's time I visited
50 years ago, and when we're still on that subject.
Let's say 40 years ago.
40 years ago.
And I visited all the European country more than once, visiting and contacting the ministry and so on, to try to see how can we have information on international migration. And I will still go in Algeria in December with the same topic for the International Office of Migration.
It's a never-ending topic.
Yes, and even like this, they bring me to Madagascar, Seychelles, Mauritius, and Comore. So you see, I have been in very amazing country just to improve the quality of data on international migration. But then something happened. And that's very important in your life. At one moment, something happened that will change your life.
A turning point.
Yeah, a turning point. I have so many turning points, but this is a very important one for Blue Zone. Medical doctor, a family doctor, he was interested to collect the photo of centenarian. And he has a lot of photos from the 19th century on centenarian. And he come to me and say, look, I have the list and photo of 3,000 Belgium centenarian. I say, wow.
3,000?
No, from the last century.
Oh, okay.
Not
altogether.
No. But he collected all the photo. Yeah. Now, in the 19th century, we started to do photo. And in the village, if there was a centenarian, you have to show on the photo the centenarian. So he has this list, and he proposed it to a lot of my colleagues that, okay, I was interested. And I started to be interested in centenarian. And progressively, I went with him in Paris in meetings that were dealing with the quality of data on a centenarian and so on. And I was probably involved, step by step, in a committee dealing with the reliability of the age of centenarian. You have to understand that a lot of people all around the world are telling that they are 100 and over, and it's not true. You don't have the document to prove it. So we created a committee for the validation of the oldest old. And it's a small committee. You have somebody from the US, from Denmark, somebody from France, and myself. And we visited all the oldest old. And for example, Antonio Tode in 2002 in Sardinia, he was 110. And he died at 112. He was the oldest man on earth at the time. And I proclaimed it in the village that he was, and in Italian, can you imagine? It was in Italian. But then we visited also Emma Morano, who was in north of Italy. He was 116. And Maria Brañas in Olot in Spain, 116, 117. And I want to tell it to you because it's something that is really amazing. My colleagues were there, and their objective is to ask questions to Maria. And Maria cannot express herself. So she has a microphone. The daughter has a microphone, and Maria has something in the ear to understand. And she was doing this and this and this and this. And so I say okay, I did not ask any question. But at one moment we decided to do the photo. And then Maria was there and we were all around Maria. And I took at that time her hand. And at that very moment, she turned her face to me and started to talk. She did not say a word before. And I have a video showing that she is really looking at me and talking. And from that time, I understand her message. And I am now promoting everywhere her message. If you want to live longer, don't forget to live. It's not only to survive, it's to live. And then I say, and you change the I by O and to love. Live and love. This is for me the main secret of longevity. But if you want, we will go back to the zone blue, because blue zone.
Yeah,
because
story, blue zones, and then, but that was a great introduction.
This is a great story,
and because you understood in that moment when you touch her that there is something to study. There's something to tell about the world. There's something to deeply examine, because it will tell us secrets of life that we always, being willing for.
Exactly.
And longevity is an aspiration, a common aspiration for all of us.
Exactly. But in fact, the starting point of this blue zone is a bit, again, a hazard. Because in a meeting in Montpellier with this team, we received a visit of people from Sassari in Sardinia. And they explained that in the mountain of Sardinia, you have a lot of centenarians. And in this village, you have even the same number of male and female centenarians. I remember very well the coffee break. At the coffee break, all demographers were discussing, yes, but in the mountain of Sardinia, very lost there, no document and so on. So they say somebody has to go and to check. And I was engaged to check there. And I remember I landed in Alghero on the 20th January 2000. And that was for me a very important moment, because I went to a celebration in a village but I saw directly, I went to the municipality and I saw that the books exist. So against what my colleagues say, there were possibility to validate. And with my colleagues from Sassari, we went from village to village, open all the books, check all documents, and validate at the end 40 centenarian in the mountain of Sardinia. No problem. We have only one problem. A girl was double, because there was some problem of registration. She died at the end of the year and was also in the next book. But this is only just one small problem. This is not disturbing. But at that moment, we may come back to the colleagues and say, yes, they are centenarian in Sardinia, and that will close the story. But then is the big change. I say to my friend, look, if there is centenarian in one village, there is also in the neighboring village, and again in the other village. And at that time, I took my blue pen, I took the map of Sardinia, and I draw on the map all the village where you have centenarian. And from that time, it is the blue zone. And I have still found a message, an email, where I discussed with my friend in March 2000 that I'm talking about the blue zone. It's in 2000.
Because you had a blue pen.
Because I have only a blue pen. I like
Always.
only the blue color. Yeah. Yes, okay. Yes,
you like blue.
I have blue eyes. You see, I am in blue.
Yeah, you're
yes?
blue,
No,
you're blue, you're blue.
This
Doesn't mean you're sad.
Yeah. But can you imagine that if at that time I have only a red pencil, I will put it in red, and we will not be here today.
No, and it won't be. It will be a little, because it will be an alarming thing.
Exactly.
But this is very hopeful.
So the blue zone was starting like that, but it took really a lot of time to convince my colleague, because they were expecting I will come back and say, I found the problem. I have found what is not correct in the system. And I published only my first paper, Identification of an Area of Longevity in Sardinia, in 2004. So it took 4 years
4 years to check.
reach this paper. Usually, a scientist may do a researcher may do a paper in 1 year, no more, in 4 years, because they did not. I was not used to publish in gerontology. First, I was from demography, and at the same time, nobody helped me because they were not convinced. But this paper now is cited more than 200 or 300 times and very, very largely distributed everywhere.
And from that paper on, well, other places came into the game, and
Exactly.
Nowadays we have 4.
Yeah, no. What happens is that as soon as I have been there, I have been invited in Okinawa.
Okay, but it seems we have Sardinia, and then the second one was Okinawa.
Okay. So I was invited in 2001 to a meeting in Okinawa, and when I was there, the validity was not done. So I started to work to see really if it is real. Because it was done by geriatrician, and they were not convinced that you have to check the age of these people. So I went 2 or 3 times, I collected all information, and I succeeded to prove that in Okinawa you have an exceptional longevity. Then we are in 2001. Then in 2002 I went to Caucasus in Georgia, because it was said that in the mountain of Caucasus you have a lot of old. And I remember not far from the Elbrus higher mountain there, I visited several villages, and I visited in one day 7 centenarians all around with 2 or 3 colleagues there. And this is really amazing. Every time I was visiting these centenarians, they want to give me a small liquor. And as I was the only man in the group, I have to drink the liquor.
Made of?
Yeah, local liquor and very strong.
Grapefruit or something?
Yes, okay. From wine.
Very strong.
Yeah, but I did it 7 times. I stopped after 7 because they wanted to see the age, and I say, no, okay, it's enough. But at least I found some centenarian there, that's clear. But there was no one age 130 as it was said. There was 130, 120 and so on. And at the end of the trip, I received the information that the mother of our host there was 110. So I decided to go and visit directly Marta.
Yeah.
And Marta was quite well and so on. And we discussed and we took photo and so on with Marta. Unfortunately, she dies 6 weeks after. I don't know if it because I was there, but she died. But I received 2 months later some document from my colleagues from BDC, Georgia University. And in fact, Marta has a different story because I have the population book, the list of people from 38 to 48. In 48, she was born in 1891. And if you go back, she was born the first in 1901. And from one book to the other one,
10 years.
The age changed. I have seen 1901, 1900, 1895, and then 1891, and you see that the 1 is a 5 replaced by 1. So she is a wonderful woman. She succeeds to age 20 years in only 10 years. Explanation? I have no explanation. The only one that is possible is that Stalin was so effective to prove the longevity in the Caucasus that she wanted to go. Or is it herself, or is it the municipality? It may be that it's just the municipality.
But you couldn't rely on that.
No, because it's clear that I have the document in front. I may show you the document where you see that from 2 years to the next 2, she changed her date of birth. And
so Georgia wasn't into the blue zone then? It couldn't be.
Georgia was not in the blue zone because the US centenarian everywhere on Earth. What we need to have blue zone is to have a higher proportion of centenarian. And so where I have a colleague from Costa Rica who did in tour in 2005 a presentation on a lot of nonagenarian in Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica.
So I contacted Luis and I said, Luis, I want to see with you what is really effective. And so I was in 2007 in Costa Rica, and we obtained all the documents by region in Costa Rica, and I identified Nicoya Peninsula as being a possible blue zone. And so we did a longevity expedition, meeting all centenarians in the different village, and I conclude that it is an area of long-living person.
So then you have three.
Yes,
then you have.
It's 1, 2, 3. Sardinia, Okinawa, and Nicoya. But just to tell you that today there is a problem because you have more and more disturbance in Nicoya. For example, McDonald's arrive and all those things, and the young people are not anymore following the rules of long living. So I'm not sure that if we do the same exercise today, 20 years later, it will again be a blue zone. So it was a blue zone in 2008, but the process is disappearing. Like in Okinawa.
Because you have to be continually checking the zones because, well,
no matter
there could be some time that no longer.
Yes, and in Okinawa the situation is even more clear because starting from 1947, they have the American domination on the island.
Yeah.
And all children receive their lunchbox coming from America with a food that is fully different. So you have a lot of centenarians among those born before 47, but the next generation, you have a lot of obese children. I have seen there recently. So it's really a change. So there will be still today 1,000 centenarians in Okinawa, but as soon as this generation will disappear, there will be no longevity at home in Okinawa.
And then we go to Greece and we have another blue zone.
No, before to go to Greece, I was interested by Vilcabamba in Ecuador because it was said that Vilcabamba has a lot of centenarians. So I tried to collect data on Ecuador, on Peru, and so on. And I have a Peruvian student working with me that was able, but I did not succeed to be sure on the place, on the way. So I say, okay, this is not the place where to go. But as I was working everywhere in Europe, I have a lot of contact with Athens and the statistical office in Athens. And I decided to go to Creta because Creta was also on the agenda. And in Creta, okay, I see some centenarian, but then I asked my colleagues in Athens, can you give me the distribution of centenarian by island? And I discovered Icaria. I say maybe Icaria, and now we are in 2008. Maybe Icaria is a good candidate. And I was there in January 2008. I remember it was still the cloud in the fog and so on. And I saw really amazing person. The end of these people in Okinawa, when they shake your hand, you keep this in your mind during 2 days after. It's so amazing. So Icaria is a small island, just 20-25 kilometers on 8, with a mountain in the middle and just limited population, less than 20,000, and a lot of centenarians. And we did a full longevity expedition there, meeting 30 centenarians, and we have convinced that it was the next blue zone. So you have Sardinia, Okinawa, you have Nicoya, and you have Sardinia.
And then Martinica came into
And then came Martinique. People wanted to put Loma Linda in the system, but you know that the reason why...
Loma Linda, California.
Yeah, why Loma Linda was involved in this New York Times magazine, in the National Geographic text there in 2004 or 6, I did not remember. It is just because National Geographic wanted to have a taste of US, okay? But it is not exactly the same situation because first, Loma Linda, we cannot have full documentation from birth to death because these people may come there and disappear and so on. So it's a religious community and
an Adventist
the
religious
Adventist,
community.
So they live longer, but the monk and the nun in our country are also living longer.
Yeah.
So it's not a secret, but as you don't follow them from birth to death, you cannot do the same exercise as we did in Okinawa, in Icaria, and so on. So it is not definitively a blue zone. But then I have been invited in more recently in 2003 in Martinique.
Martinique.
No, it was in 2020 because they have a meeting. It was just before COVID, just 1 month before COVID in 21. And I went to the celebration on Centenarian and I started to be interested. And I went from one municipality to the other one. And again, I discovered that the documentation exists.
Okay.
And so I have now a list of 2,500 centenarians that live during these last 20 years in Martinique, which means that if you do the calculation and so on, somebody born in Martinique has 50% more chance to reach 100 compared to France metropole. Yeah. And if a Martinican go and live in Paris, he will not live so
He will
long.
not live.
He should stay there.
He will not
And,
make it.
Leonise, for example, who is now more than 110, is living in front of the sea with the daughter, the granddaughter. And it's an amazing person. Really, I met really not necessarily a lot of men, but Leonise impressed me really because she...
The women.
Yes, yes.
And then Galicia is a candidate as well.
And then I have
Certain
to say
parts
that
of
I have been
Orense, Lugo.
everywhere, and there is a lot of requests from
Yeah, of course.
everywhere.
You are very...
So I have been
You're
invited
solicited.
in Orense to see what is the situation in Galicia. In fact, I met a lot of centenarians in this area, and they are wonderful persons.
in good conditions.
In good condition. So all, I would say, all the sign of an exceptional longevity exist. But you should understand that as demographer, I need to come with strong data to show really. So now we are trying to collect really all the data that will help us to say, okay, they are really living longer. You should understand that I want to know how many were born there, and even if they live somewhere else in Spain, how many of them reach 100. And you divide this by the number of newborn. This is the only way to do it. Because I remember somebody in Italy wanted me to go to the north there and say there are 19 centenarians in the village. Okay, yes. But how many were born there? Just a few.
Just a few.
Because they just moved there because it's an attractive place. So you have to divide to compare apple and apple.
Yeah.
So the number of centenarians compared to the number of newborn in this area. And the place of birth is really important because this is the genetic aspect, because all the people in one village has some similarity in their genes. And the second one is that the food, the lifestyle in the first year of your life is very important to reach 100. So that's why the meaning of the place of birth is essential. And that's what I want to do now in Spain. And not only in Spain, because I went to Portugal also.
Okay.
And I went north of Portugal and I visited some places. I will still be there in 2 or 3 weeks in Braga and Bragança. So there are possibilities. It cannot be that the border between Portugal and Spain make a big difference in longevity. This is the same mountain, the same lifestyle. So I would really like, I would love to study the two together and to show the continuity between Portugal and Spain in this area in terms of longevity.
And that takes us, well, you know, the genetics, the food, take us to the 7 characteristics that a blue song has to have.
So
Why 7?
Now first, I will tell you that the way to work is not to ask. The way to work is to visit them, to see how they are living and so on, just to observe, observation. And based on this observation, I found 7 principles.
Okay.
Again, the 7 is not by hazard, because this is the numbers I prefer. Okay.
Your lucky number.
Yeah, the lucky number. I am born the 7th June 47, so this is there are already
Has
2
to be
7
7.
there. But among the 7 principles that are linked to the lifestyle, there is nothing about genes. Okay, the genes is something fully different, the genetic and epigenetic.
Yeah.
And I have to admit now that we have no explanation based on genes.
Okay.
We cannot say that in the blue zone, no. You should understand that for genetics analysis, you need thousands and thousands of cases. And you cannot conclude on 6 centenarians there, 8 there. So you need to have a very large database to conclude that this gene is important. So we are nowhere in terms of genetics, but the observation, what I observe in these region is really important because there is a lot of similarity. So the first one, I name it eat wisely. Wisely, which means that they tell me we stop to eat when our stomach is 80% full. Eat local and seasonal food. Don't bring it. Avoid all what is coming from the food industry.
Okay.
That's something. And it is not a specific diet. They eat meat, they eat fish. It is not vegetarian, for example. So, and it is not only Mediterranean, because in Sardinia, for example, they are in the mountain and they never receive fish from the sea because it's too far.
Yeah.
The fish will not come fresh there.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of things, but the food and the meat is really different, because the meat is from animals that are growing freely in the mountain, with a lot of antioxidants. And so this is not our animals that are parked. It's fully different.
Yeah.
When they do some meat there, it's really good meat.
What are the characteristics? I mean, we have the food, we have the
second
genetics.
one is the moving. You have to move, and you have to move naturally. It's not the physical exercise you see very strong and so on. It's to walk in the city, to walk in the forest, to do some physical activity and so on. These people are never stopping. At 90, they are still doing their garden. They will stop around 95 or 100, but they are still moving. So move naturally, not like this. And that's something that I really observe. You have the slope in the village, and to go and say hello to another person, they have to move there. And in Sardinia,
and another thing, you have to avoid the stress.
Exactly. But I would say that I remember, if you go to Sardinia, you will see the women running everywhere like this, and you will see the men standing at the cafe, not drinking, but just looking around. And they have to go to her. Then you have the family. You know that in this village, mostly in Sardinia, nobody is in nursing home. Nursing home. If somebody has problem when they become old, the family will take care, or even the neighbor will come and sleep. You spend the night with this person. So it's really a solidarity at local level. It's not only family, it's also the community. If you go to the village, you will see the painting of the wall, all centenarian are there. I have done 3 longevity celebration in the village, putting in evidence the longevity there. You know that in the higher village there in Sardinia, in Villa Grande, you have 60 centenarians that live there, 60, in a village of 2,700 inhabitants. If I have the same village in Belgium, there would be 1 centenarian, 60. And among the 60, 30 men and 30 women. Just recently, 2 brothers were 100 and 102. So the oldest died, but the youngest is just celebrated his 100th birthday now. See, it's amazing. 2 brothers that are, and it's not the first. I have 30 men who became centenarian in Sardinia. And that's the place where I celebrated Antonio Todi as the oldest man on earth. Yes.
And then we have community bonds.
The community is crucial. We are not living alone. So this concept of blue zone, it's not a concept of individual, it's a concept at the community level. The community is very important to help people to live longer and to live in connection with each other. So all what is going on in community level is really essential. In Nicoya, even the vice president of Costa Rica arrived and celebrate with us the longevity in the village. You have the governor was there, the vice president, and 27 centenarians were together there. That was a big moment. So you have really something that, this is a treasure, this longevity. And this is a treasure at community level and not at the individual level, yes, but community level.
And they're treated with respect and love.
Yeah.
So there's another characteristic, the love and you said that it's very important to have a purpose in life.
Exactly. So The sixth principle is the respect of the nature, because they are really involved every day in the nature there. But the last one is having a purpose of life. This is the bit we discussed this morning, having some spirituality, because this is Leonise is reading the Bible, writing the Bible, reading the Bible every day there. But another one will go in the nature, another one will do this and that. It is not specifically a specific religion. It is having a purpose of life, having something to do when you wake up in the morning. And this is something that really we appreciate when we see these people, the positive aspect on the view, on the life. This is something that is really ikigai. You have ikigai. You have la pura
the
vida.
Ikigai concept, the pura vida in Costa Rica,
Exactly.
which is a philosophy of life
Exactly.
that we will have to export everywhere.
Exactly. We have to export it, and it's not only to say it like this. No, it's to live ikigai. It's to live the pura vida, and so this is something that you have to do, and it's very important in our society, because the key point in our society is the stress, is the working day, and finally you have no time to take care of your family, of your friend, of your community. We should change a lot of things in our daily life.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Poulain.
I think these
it was a
and
wonderful conversation.
Don't forget, live and love. Okay?
Okay, live and love, and it's good to have this place
full of the souvenir, we say in French, of all these people that come here to read these books. That's amazing. Yeah. Can you imagine the number, thousands and thousands
all this wisdom.
Exactly. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poulain.
Thank you.
Thank you.